Okay, this is a real quick overview of the tools in Logic Pro X for doing a mix down. This isn't a mix, this is just a real quick sample with some loops and some really fast, quick and dirty type of MIDI stuff, just to give an overview of what you can do. I'm going to turn off this loop for a second. A couple of quick tips. Hitting the letter Z, no Shift Z, Command Z, Control Z, just Z, takes you back to the beginning of the recording. Your space bar will start and stop. And I'm going to turn down the main volume because it is quite loud compared to my voice. So I'm going to turn it down to about there just so that you can not get blasted out. So, like I said, these are loops, and I just really quickly did a MIDI drum. I did them all on different tracks so that you can see what you would do if you were recording live drums. Normally I just use one drummer and drop in the auto drummer thing with this. But for this, let's just pretend that that was a live kit. And really badly played, but perfectly in time. So normally you can access the mixer part right here. But I find it's a little easier to hit Command 2, and that brings up our mix panel. And if you have a second monitor, you can drag this guy onto it and have both screens going. I find that really, really handy. So let's again play for a second. Okay, so what I'm noticing is that the wah guitar is a little hot, so let's hit the right place. We're going to change this to gain. Let's go back to the Okay, I'm noticing the bass is a little hot. So again, let's pull this up. Learn this. It's quite a nice way to control. And here's a real quick tip. Hold down Option. You can drag one to the next. Okay, so let's back up and let's talk about some of the other aspects of this. So if you want to work on the EQ of, say, the snare, you can click there. We can roll off some of the bottom because we're not going to hear it, and if you've got live drums, chances are you want to do this just to knock out some of the kick drum that's going to be hiding there. Let's solo that. So we can bring out some of the snare a little bit more, something like that. Okay. Now, all of this is going to the stereo out. This is the stereo bus. Now, a lot of people like to throw a little bit of compression onto that part. Let's pull up just a light compressor. So you can hear that. Brings out a little bit of life to it. And some people like to throw a little bit of reverb onto here. So it kind of glues things together a little bit. Some people feel differently about doing that at the beginning or end, or whether to do it at all. But it's one thing that I learned, and I typically do. Sometimes I don't, just depending on what I want to do. So that's your main stereo bus. Now if you want to create, let's create a bus for just our guitars. So what we're going to do is change stereo out to bus 1. We'll rename bus 1. Notice I just double clicked on that to guitars. Now why would you want to do that? Well, let's back up. You have control of all the guitars with this one slider. Also, if you're wanting to process everything similarly, if you want to throw a compressor across multiple things, you can save processing power by using that as a processing everything that goes through it. There we go. That's a little hot. Let's pull that down. Okay. So all the compressor does is allow you to make the quieter parts louder and the louder parts quieter, which is a really nice feature of compressors. It evens things out. Used to be you'd be riding this, and some people still do that because it is a little bit different sound. It's very transparent if you ride this, but if you've got 40 things all happening at once, it's a little harder to do that. Most people just go with a compressor. Now another way to do something like that in Logic Pro, let's group all of our drums. What we're going to do is left click and create a track stack and a summing stack. So now all of our drums are going through there. Now that's kind of nice because you can have a whole bunch of stuff and hide them just like that. Let's pull up our mixer. We can open them up again. If we want to adjust specific things, let's do a solo of the drums. Maybe we want to flip that hi-hat a little bit more. And maybe a little bit of that. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay. So I'm not going to say that's great, but it's a starting point. Now we can throw a compressor right across there. Now you can do all of that once. Like that, just you can grab a preset, or you can do it yourself. I kind of like to start with the preset and then modify as I need to. I'm going to bring that up a little bit. Okay. So now we've got the drums as a bus, the guitars as a bus. Now what does that allow us to do? Well, let's maybe take that off solo. So we can affect each of those and mix them separately. If you get into automation, you can do all the guitars, all the drums, whatever feels appropriate to you. If you've got a single instrument, why create a bus for it? There is another use for a bus though. Let's go with this guy. We may want to parallel compress something. So what we'll do is we'll grab dynamics, grab a compressor. Now what we're going to do is really compress the heck out of that. So let's find actually I'm going to use this because I'm going to use slammed. Okay, so what we do now is we have to raise the level of that so that it can actually be heard. And then we're going to solo that. Then you can dial in how much of the super compression you want. And that can make a track stand out. Now, a trick called New York compression is to do that and then really pull out the highs and lows and just have the middles compressed. Okay. Now, once you're done all of that, go to bounce. You can create a AIFF or a wave, and or create an MP3 or M4A ACC. These are the two that I use the most. If you're going to do that, make sure you're at 320 just to get the best sound quality. And say OK, and it creates an MP3 for you. So that's all there is to it. Then if you create like a AIFF or a wave, you can then send that for mastering. I actually have been using Louder, it's LOUDR.com. It's a paid service. It's fairly inexpensive to create very quick and usable mastering files. Not as good as a real human for doing some things, but for an overall just quick and dirty and affordable, it actually works pretty good. Sound like blind tests, people have been sometimes preferring human, sometimes preferring louder, so it actually is pretty good. Anyways, that's it for a real quick and dirty tools for doing a mix down with Logic Pro X.